Continue the conversation. CEO of Masonboro Strategies, Luke Ball, and distinguished professor at Touro University, Thane Rosenbaum. Luke, I'd like to start with your reaction to the congressman there. He says, look, those WhatsApp messages, they're real. We can prove they're real. They come from Hunter Biden's laptop. What more do you need to see?
Well, the congressman's doing such great work, Greg Murphy, along with all the other folks who are investigating this, because the Democrats refuse to investigate this. And the fact is, we do have a two-tier justice system. I mean, my heart skipped a beat when I got a letter from the IRS after I filed my taxes, and it was a $17 return I wasn't expecting. But for Hunter Biden, he's getting 2 misdemeanor charges for $8.3 million in unreported taxes. And this isn't just unreported taxes in the United States, it's from foreign nationals. And so we look at how many times that they've passed over investigating Hunter Biden, with the U.S. attorneys declining to look into this in Washington, D.C., declining to look into this in California, Merrick Garland refusing to appoint a special counsel, and then also refusing to investigate any further on the Hunter Biden laptop case. It seems as if time and time again, there's a double standard of justice in the United States. If this were Donald J. Trump Jr. and he had done any of this or an iota of this, they would be at the sentencing phase right now. If it were Donald Trump, they would have found a way to vote him out and revoke his United States citizenship. So the fact is that Merrick Garland needs to get serious if he wants to show that there's not a two-tier justice system in America, because right now it's proving him wrong.
Now, Thane, how serious are these allegations against Hunter Biden, like from a legal standpoint?
Well, remember, at this point, he's still only been charged with very low-level charges, misdemeanors, right? So we already know from the perspective of the Justice Department, they don't see very significant criminal wrongdoing. That's the problem, Sarah, right? The lack of intellectual and investigative curiosity by the IRS and the Justice Department. You know, let's just look at it this way. You know, President Trump is being charged with espionage. And our understanding historically is espionage involves spies, counterintelligence, giving another foreign entity information, selling state secrets, right? There's no evidence of that with President Trump. All you see is documents he should not possess as long as he possessed it, but he did have a possessory interest. Now you're seeing actual engagement with the Biden family and foreign entities and the potential for influence peddling. You see, to me, the question isn't, didn't you pay your taxes, Sarah and Mike? The real question is, what were you being paid for? You know, a lot of people don't pay their taxes and you pay a fine. This should be a felony, and perhaps there should be prison time. But the much more significant question is, why'd you get paid? What did you do? What were you actually doing for that money? Because to me, this is an example of the very thing that they're claiming they see with Donald Trump, somehow being engaged with a foreign entity in a way that damages the national security of the United States. No one's asking that question. All we're talking about is that if there's a misdemeanor charge and that there will be no jail time for Hunter Biden. No one's asking, does any of this suggest espionage? Does any of this suggest criminal bribery scheme? We don't know.
Well, one person who is asking those questions is senior White House correspondent James Rosen, who made news this week in the White House press room. He tried to get answers out of John Kirby as well as Karine Jean-Pierre. He wasn't able to, and neither was anyone else. Take a look.
Does this not undermine the president's claim during the 2020 campaign and the reaffirmations of that claim by his 2 press secretaries since then, that he never once discussed his son's overseas business dealings with him?
No, and I'm not going to comment further on this.
We're good.
I'm not. James, let me save you some. Let me save you some breath. If you're going to ask about this, I am not addressing. I know you do more than I'd like you to have. I am not going to address this issue from this podium. I'm just not going to do it.
All right.
I'm not going to do it.
Where was the precedent on it? Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
What do you make of that exchange there, Luke?
So I will say, would the Trump White House have gotten away with doing this at any point over any issue whatsoever. You know, the difference between the Biden White House and the Trump White House is that Donald Trump would walk out there whenever there was a controversy and stand up there for hours answering questions. But I also want to know, why weren't the other reporters so quick to ask these questions far before James Rosen brought this up? And if I could put on my tinfoil hat for just a second, working in communications on Capitol Hill, there are a lot of times where reporters will reach out to you and you establish a relationship with them. And in the White House Correspondents Association, with these White House reporters, if they start upsetting the balance between Karine Jean-Pierre and the administration, they're not going to get their special stories. They're not going to get their sit downs with White House administration officials. And they don't want to upset that balance with the Trump administration. They were going to get that regardless. But with Biden, it's kind of a political favor tick for tack situation. And so I'm wondering why these other reporters weren't asking that. I think a few of them did follow up, but it was at the prompting of the Newsmax reporter. So I'm wondering when they're going to get serious about reporting instead of just trying to follow the lead to make sure they still get their special stories planted.
Yeah, Donald Trump said last night at a speech in Washington, D.C., 10, 12 years ago, reporters would get a Pulitzer Prize for looking to ask questions like that. They don't ask those questions anymore. Gentlemen, we'll have to leave it there. Luke Ball, Thane Rosenbaum, appreciate your insight today. Thank you.